Thank you, Mr. Moussavi, for your time, sir.
Good evening to you, Irfan. It's been all fun and games for the last 3 days. Yeah, I had no idea that the truth has this impact in Pakistan. I'm delighted that it does.
So, how you look when you look back? What do you think of the first interview which you had, which we both had, and what do you think? Where are we right now?
It's it,
Because
it's nice to talk to journalists who have integrity like you, and it's a rare breath of fresh air to speak to a journalist who has integrity. So thank you for staying with the story. And there's a lot of mileage in this, and I hope the truth has a habit of coming out, but somehow it just comes out slowly. I don't know why, but well, I do know why, because there are a lot of people having in incentive in spinning for their own ends. But we have the documents and we know the history, so we'll make sure it comes up.
since we published this interview for like 4 or 5 days ago, I suppose. Now we're in the stage that different stories are coming forward, which are attached to your first interview, which we did it.
Yeah.
In terms of the target list, we said that there are 200 names. As you said, there are 200 names. And having said that, there's a story published in Pakistan. Let me give you, and I have sent you the link of that story, and there are names which been claimed by one of the journalists there that this is actual list. First, tell me, you have seen the list, sir?
I saw the list back in 2000. Yes,
Yes.
I've
And
seen the list for
that
20
list,
years.
yes. And that list and the list of the people I have sent you, do they match, sir?
Well, somebody says there was a list given in 2016 and 2008. They obviously got the story wrong because we were out of this in 2003. So any list given after that is a complete nonsense. But I see that there are talking about lists later. So somebody has an agenda. But by and large, the list is by and large is right. I don't remember every name. Not least because we were sabotaged from pursuing everyone. So I would only remember those that we pursued very actively, but not the others. But never mind.
Yeah, so the more so you're saying that the list and the link which I have sent you of one of the news item is almost the same. And
Yeah,
some of the names,
I think so. Yeah, some of them ring the bell. I need to go back to our archives, but of course, our archives are now with the lawyers. So
like the bureaucrats, the officers, armed forces, the business people,
yeah,
the politicians,
yes, yes, yes.
uh, and their families, especially the Sharifs, Zardaris, and there's so many. There's so many. The people like as you in your interview said that Aftab Sherpao, Sayyid Ghaus Ali Shah, Sayyid Abdullah Shah, Faisal Saleh Hayat, Humayun Akhtar, Jam Masood, all these names which are in this list, they match to your list. That's
Yes,
what you're saying.
I
Okay.
recollect. They certainly are familiar. Yes.
Yes, but they are obviously we need to see the actual list to compare that. But yes, okay. Moving to the next question, there's a confidential settlement communication, which is actually in public now, in the public domain, and it's a 13-page communication which happened between the Broadsheet company and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan and its National Accountability Bureau. Do you recognize this communication, sir? You have definitely you have the copies of that as well.
It was the report that we made of the transfer to a country in Southeast Asia, as also the events that took place when the purported general came to see me. Are you referring to that document?
Yes, it's Alan Overy in London, Mark Levy, and the introduction, and it at the request of obviously this is a communication which is confidential. What are the legal implications when somebody is actually showing this piece of paper and it's everywhere now? It's everywhere, every single on the social media and every Twitter, people are actually distributing this. In this, you have on the page 13. Uh, it's written very clearly, and I read this for you that our understanding is that the new agreement was not signed because Mr. Moussavi refused to agree to the request to pay bribes and kickbacks. We also understand that the Sharif funds remain in Singapore bank account and are subject of ongoing discussions between Sharif and the government to release him from the prison in return for a turnover of some of those funds. Is that true, sir?
Well, the document speaks for itself. Do I need to comment on it? And the question you should be asking, can you look at the date of that letter?
It's 21st of March 2019.
And what's the date today?
Today is the 14th of January 2021.
Yes, and it's nearly 2 years later, right?
Yes,
And
indeed.
and the government of Pakistan and this fool, Shahzad Akbar, has done nothing about it. He had the opportunity when he saw me in October to discuss this. I raised it with him. He completely ignored it. Why did he ignore it? You know why? I can speculate, but the one thing I can tell you for sure, we were absolutely certain that the government of Pakistan would come running and sitting with us and say, oh my God, $1 billion, let's talk about it. You know what this fool was interested in doing? Reducing the award by a couple of $1 million. And I mean, I said, are we talking about the rule of law? Would people of Pakistan do better by developing a reputation by adhering to the rule of law and court orders? Would you be better off, would the people of Pakistan be better off if we went after $1 billion rather than you trying to skim off, that's his expression, skim off a couple of $1 million out of an award for 30 million? I mean, this is the fool that we're dealing with, and this is the...
Whose expression? Whose expression?
It was Mr. Akbar said, accused me of skimming off money from the people of Pakistan. That's what he said. It's a libelous statement that he made the other day.
Right. And in your statement, you said that this offer as a part of the proposed cooperation agreement because he had just been alerted via high-level contacts in Saudi Arabia and just under $1 billion had left Saudi by wire transfer to a bank account in Southeast Asia to the order of Nawaz Sharif. Mr. Moussavi understood that putting forward such bona fide details about Sharif-related corrupt assets could greatly serve the interest of Pakistan as well as the agenda of the Prime Minister Khan to fight corruption at the highest level. And it would enhance the good faith efforts of the parties to resolve the pending London dispute and work together forward in a positive and transparent manner. Sir, do you endorse this as well? Do you, this is something you have alerted to the government of Pakistan, and those accounts belong to Mr. Sharif, right?
The document speaks for itself. It's a legal document, and I'm not going to elaborate on it. It speaks for itself. The real question is, why didn't they act on it? Why didn't they? The birds are flown now, and the assets, if they were there, they're gone now. 2 years later, a journalist picks it up with me. I congratulate you for taking this matter seriously and asking me. The government have never asked me. Mr. Big Shot Minister who comes here to try and negotiate like a carpet trader and try and reduce my award for $2 million. He never discussed it with me. A serious law firm has put in writing to a serious law firm what we have said. The time to investigate it was then, not now. I think this document is the biggest condemnation of Shahzad Akbar. It's the biggest confirmation to the people of Pakistan that they have a fool here whose only interest when he comes here is to try and negotiate to reduce the award. And he goes to the National Crime Agency and doesn't raise this. Doesn't raise the fact that a man has come and sat with me and tried to shake me down for commissions. This fool doesn't even raise that to the National Committee. I put it through your camera to the people of Pakistan. You know what this fool said to the National Crime Agency? Please keep it quiet that we have settled with another one of these crooks where they took several tens of millions of pounds. Keep it quiet and do not let it come out on your website until the money has left the United Kingdom. I ask you, Irfan, Hashmi, a government that adheres to the rule of law conspires in order to stop the National Crime Agency from revealing the fact that under the unexplained wealth orders, as well as the request for mutual assistance, monies have been frozen here so that the money leaves the United Kingdom jurisdiction and the court order against NAB is frustrated. This is the fool that is the interface with the world of the justified claims of Imran Khan of trying to bring about the rule of law. The significance of this document today is different what it was back in March of 2019. In March 2019, it would have been a red hot alert. Start an investigation now. The very fact that
So
the first
Mr. Moussavi,
question.
sorry, I never interrupt you, but let me ask you this question.
Yes.
You always finish your sentence. I never interrupt you. But you, in your interview with me, you said that Mr. Shahzad Akbar is a man of integrity.
I was under the impression that he was a man of integrity in the last 4 days. Men of integrity can still be fools. I'm not suggesting he's not a man of integrity. I'm not saying he's asked for bribes. No, he's never done that. Any journalist who suggested he asked for bribes.
And that's my second question, because there's a large hue and cry in Pakistan, in certain corridors, that there's a controversy lying on his name. That was he asking you for cuts? Has he ever asked you, Mr. Shahzad Akbar, has ever asked Mr. Moussavi, you, or Broadsheet, or anyone, through anyone, for his commission, share, or his cut?
No. Never.
He never.
Never.
So one more question, because there's a controversy there. What he's saying for the last 3-4 days, right, which obviously you think is not right. So is any other steps you're going to take against him? If I have the liberty to ask you this question.
Against who?
Shahzad Akbar.
Well, this morning I sought legal advice, and they read what he'd said. They said, this is libelous. This is libel. You can bring an action against him. I said, well, I sue people who are worth suing. I think he's just a fool, and fools can have integrity. Yeah, I don't think he's a. He certainly didn't ask me for a bribe. I mean, any journalist making that, they've made it up. He has never, Shahzad Akbar has never asked me for a bribe. That's for sure. He, directly or indirectly. But I almost wish he'd asked me for a bribe rather than not focus on investigating $1 billion loss. A bribe Pakistan would have lost $2 million. This way, they've possibly lost $1 billion. Now tell me, who is more damaging to Pakistan? A corrupt guy who asked for a $2 million backhand note, or a fool who lets the opportunity to investigate $1 billion go? I know what my answer is. There used to be a time in the 1980s that the World Bank said a little bit of corruption oils the wheels and gets things done. I don't have any sympathy for that position. But with this fool, we are facing a situation in which, for the first time, a responsible journalist like you comes and says to me, what's this document? This is a question that Shahzad Akbar should have asked on the 15th of March, 2019, not you 2 years later.
So what happened actually when they, let's recall the whole incident. I know you said this in my interview, and many times, zillion times since for the last 3 days, you are going on television, and since we did the first interview, let's recall the whole thing. The delegation was here, and what happened, in which year, and how this all started?
Came to London. The delegation came to London several times on a number of occasions. They never told me they were coming. The only times they told me they were coming was when they asked to see me, and I met Shahzad Akbar and one of his colleagues initially at the Royal Garden Hotel, then a little while later at the Chelsea Arts Club. I saw them. But previously, I was aware they were coming. They were talking to various people. They'd gone to see the National Crime Agency, and they'd asked for assistance from the National Crime Agency. And they settled with one of the targets that they had for £190 million. And so I invite the people of Pakistan through your camera to reflect on the proposition. A minister has a letter from a top international law firm in Washington saying, on information and belief, we're alerting you to $1 billion of a target that you used to have, and now a target who's been sacked by the government, by the Supreme Court of Pakistan. And rather than grabbing that and getting on a plane and coming here and sitting down and discussing with us, what happens after that? We have the minister turn up in London. He goes to the National Crime Agency and doesn't think, I should raise this issue with them. I should raise the issue of illicit money here in the context of the discussions we've had. They've been to National Crime Agency several times. They went to National Crime Agency after they had received this report from us. They didn't raise the issue with them that a crime had taken place in London. Somebody had attempted to suborn me in order to take a cut. And they have the gall to ask me today, why didn't I raise it with the authorities? The authorities being the government of Pakistan. The proof that I raised it is in front of you. Immediately.
So one thing, Mr. Moussavi, don't you think so that what happened in the past back in 2003, you raised something to the government of Pakistan, uh, to the minister and to the people who actually met you, the representatives, you said in this communication, which is right in front of me, that don't you think so that at some point they have a doubt? Have you given them the ample evidences, or they must thought, you know what, why we should believe Mr. Moussavi? You that you have this, you were saying that you've been alerted. Did you show them some sort of evidences that look, this is the money, or it was just only a preposition on the table as what you were telling them?
In 2000 or 2019?
2019.
What bigger evidence do you want that I put it formally in writing, commit myself to a position in writing? Once it's written, then it's not changeable. You can't twist and turn it. Weasel words might get you out if you use words, but if there's a transcript and it's written, no way of coming out of that. I put it there. I was so sure of what I was saying that I instructed my lawyers to put it down and write it, and they did. But the question, serious question is, assuming it was my wild fantasy, okay? Don't you think if somebody comes and tells you there's $1 billion left in the middle,
I would go for it. I would definitely go and recover that money.
you've answered your own question.
So there are two times you alerted them. First time you actually told them there is a money, and the second time they come up with some sort of agreement. Is that right, sir?
We told them the money, and there was discussions about an agreement. But the real scandal was when I told them not only there's the money, but you clearly believe there's the money. That's why a very senior person has come to try and see if they can get 50% of our commission from that money. We discussed $1 billion, the commission on that would have been $200 million, and they would have made 100 million. They made a move to try to shake me down, but they made no move on trying to investigate it. Don't tell me, please, that they thought it's not real. Well, if it wasn't real, why did they try to shake me down? And if you think they didn't try to shake me down, explain that letter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moussavi.
Okay.